Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zerl. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. Visit us at ihatecritics.net.com, everyone's a critic podcast.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle is Critics Pod. We're also on Alexa. I was going to say Amazon. Alexa, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, all your podcatchers. Subscribe to the show, rate and review the show. It really does help with the algorithm that's ever-changing. And then YouTube, we're there as well. Click on the little bell in the right-hand corner to subscribe and get notifications when a new episode drops. We also have Patreon at patreon.com/criticspod, as well as our TeePublic merch store at ihatecritics.net. ihatecritics.com, up in the right-hand corner. Sorry, I drank a bunch of coffee before I started, and it's making it hard to talk. All right. It's up in the right-hand corner of our website. Before we get started, the little bit of news. Joel Schumacher passed away at 80 years old.
Yeah, quite a legacy. You know, one of the most successful gay filmmakers in history. And this is something that maybe a lot of people didn't know about him, but when he was directing blockbusters, he was one of the most out and open directors working in the day, and that's really rather notable. It doesn't change the fact that most of his work wasn't very good, but it does make him historic, at the very least. I don't want to be mean about the man. I mean, I didn't care much for much of his work, but when he was good, he was very good. Movies like Tigerland and Phone Booth are incredible films. A lot of that has to do with Colin Farrell being incredible in both of those movies, but there are elements of like A Time to Kill, which I really enjoy. It's kind of it's weird and very commercial and calculated, but also again he does well with bringing out movie star type performances.
Yeah, that's almost more John Grisham's fault than anything. But no, I mean, he makes very watchable movies, if nothing else. It's not for the film snobs like us. So what he does, he is effective at, but it's usually not for our taste. But you're right, Phone Booth and Tigerland are fantastic movies. And, it's never... I don't know. I'm about to say no one's ever rooting for people to die, but that's not what I mean. I mean, he made Batman and Robin. I mean,
yeah.
But I don't know. It's sad, but it is cool. His real life story, and he kind of worked the entire time, which is pretty impressive.
Very consistent. Yeah, always able to find work no matter what he did, even when he didn't succeed at it.
And then what I thought was going to be bringing people back to the theaters, Tenet, is now getting pushed back. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, they pushed it back to August now to kind of accommodate further hope that that COVID-19 will get under control, which is not going to happen.
No.
If you've been to a store in the last day and a half, you know that this is coming back very heavy, very, very soon.
Yeah, I mean, when you're walking around the store and you're the only one wearing a mask, that's them. And some of not even the employees are all wearing masks anymore.
The high level complacency is shocking to me. It really is, but especially with when people are watching the news and they're seeing what's happening in Florida, Texas, Arizona, and they're still like, it's fine. I live in the Midwest. It's not coming here. You're an idiot.
And I mean, all you got to do is just shut down the bars again. I mean, that's the main, the big gathering places, shut those down where people are talking loud and then go back to the masks and like really encourage that without turning into a left wing, right wing thing. This doesn't need to be political. and sadly it is. But I don't know. It's not that complicated, but people don't seem to get it. Whatever.
Yeah. We'll be doing a podcast for just those that survive, apparently.
I mean, I think most of us will survive it, but we'll all have trouble breathing. They'll all come down to... We'll have to walk around. We'll all have permanent asthma, so hopefully you don't get it.
If I get it, I'm dead. So I'm a little bit nervous.
Right. So if the theaters open back up, does that mean you got to go, or do you just wear a mask, or what's the deal?
I mean, I think I can get. I think there's actually, as cynical as I am about the whole situation, I think wearing a mask and using hand sanitizer regularly, you can do just about anything. Aside from maybe going to a bar where people are talking, a movie people aren't supposed to be talking, might not be as bad. Plus, the ways that the theaters are going to work hard to clean, I think maybe that could be one of the few places that might be able to actually operate safely, as opposed to, say, like you say, a bar.
Yeah, if they truly do social distancing good, then you're probably going to be fine at a movie theater, unless someone's coughing like a motherfucker, which happens. Otherwise, I do think a theater would be okay, but again, I'm probably going to wait a little bit until, I don't know. I just don't know. The whole thing is weird.
And once they announce that Tenet's moving to 2021, I think we'll all be safe to just kind of hang back at home and continue to watch stuff on demand until next year.
Unfortunately, it's lowered the quality of movies we're watching. But we'll get to those later. We'll start with what I think is the best movie of the week, My Spy.
Yeah, this is a low bar, isn't it? My Spy stars Dave Bautista and Chloe Coleman as JJ. He's a spy, and Chloe Coleman is this little girl who uncovers him while he's out a stakeout with his partner, and she then uses that to blackmail him into teaching her about being a spy, and of course then that leads to him dating her mom, and it becomes kind of a romantic thing, and then there's still the other terrorist plot that's going on, and it's all really mediocre and fine. And what Bautista's good at, as he showed in Stuber in this movie, is that he's good at being amiable and likable and never bad. He's just not a bad actor, and he's not. I don't think he's necessarily shown ability to be bad in movies. He's just too amiable and likable to be really terrible, and I appreciate that. I think that quality makes this slightly above mediocre.
Yeah, he has hit that watchable level. I would like to see what would happen when, if he had a bigger role in something like Blade Runner, or with the director who would use him to see how good he actually could be. But he hasn't really been bad yet, and that I don't know if it's just because we're still, there's not a lot that we've had from him. But so far it's been very watchable, and if nothing else, that's pretty impressive for movies like this and Stupid. That should really be throwaway movies that are actually pretty, I could see my family enjoying this. And in fairness, yeah. I watched all the movies back to back to back to back. So this one really did, wow, this is pretty good. But I don't know.
By comparison to everything else we're sitting through this week, yeah, this is so much better just because it's not actively terrible. There's just, like I said, an amiable quality to it. The direction is, again, mediocre at best, because that's what Peter Siegel does. He's the director of Tommy Boy, among others. So that's just kind of his wheelhouse, is just being not terrible.
Right.
That's what this movie is. It's not terrible. It's just kind of likable and good-natured, easy for the family to enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, there is a whole, like any other movie with something like this, where obviously he's a CIA agent and he's fallen in love with the woman he's spying on, and you got to have that moment where they, the tension of having to lie about it. Well, I think they do that really well in this, where they just kind of do it. There's no real drama behind it. He tells her the truth and then moves on, and I thought that was one of the nicer things about it, because any other movie would have done it way more drawn out and kind of eye-rolling. Yeah. But there's plenty of eye-rolling moments in it, but for whatever reason, Bautista makes it funny when he does it. Like the fact that he uses movie quotes when he's in a tense situation, it isn't as dumb as it should be.
Right.
So, and maybe it's just because of the way he looks and the way he acts. I really don't know what it. I mean, I guess you've used the word properly, amiable. So I don't.
He's just very relaxed on screen. He just has a very unforced presence that I appreciate.
And it's weird because they keep asking him if he's going to be in the Fast and the Furious movies because The Rock is and how John Cena is. And he makes stupid comments about how he would never do a shitty movie like that. But then he goes and does these, and they end up not being shitty because of him. So I just don't know what his process is. And if nothing else, he has me intrigued. I want to see what happens with him as an actor because he's been able to kind of do everything and pull it off successfully so far. So that's pretty impressive.
I should say that as much as I like him, he has made bad movies. He was in those, but he was very small parts in both the bad movies I've seen him in.
Oh yeah,
which are those two Stallone movies.
The Stallone movies, yeah. Forgot about those.
Which are just awful. Those are terrible movies. But he's barely in them, so I can't blame him.
But he's also barely in Blade Runner, so it's not like we can give him anything for that either. Devil's Night, Dawn of Nain Rouge.
Nain Rouge. Which is essentially means Red Dwarf. This is a movie that purportedly stars Eminem's little brother, Nathan.
I don't know if you did that on purpose or if there was a pause in the recording. That was funny.
Actually, I'm not the joke, but Eminem's little brother, Nathan, who's barely in this movie. And it's funny because you can sense that they intended to feature him, like they intended to have him. And they've even got him prominently featured on the poster, but he's barely in the movie. You can see where they cut around him in the final cut of the movie.
Oh, so he was going to be the star of it? He was going to be in it more?
I'm assuming so, just based off of the edit, the dialogue, because there's dialogue in the movie that refers to things that his character and his partner are doing that you don't actually see.
Well, I just assumed it was one of those, like, in the TNA comedies of the 2000s with, like, Carmen Electra or Paris Hilton on the cover, but then they just walk by in the background one time. I thought that's what they were doing, which with Eminem's brother, which makes no sense, but whatever.
Right, because nobody knows who this guy is. I didn't even know Eminem had a brother until I saw this movie.
I didn't either.
But he's a detective who's kind of just, he's there in like the first part of the movie and then he disappears and people in dialogue are forced to refer to things that he's done, like is doing as part of the investigation that's going on, but they're happening off screen because, like, I don't know if they didn't film it or if he wasn't very good and they just didn't use it. Whatever reason it was, it's really hilarious the way they pull that off. But the star here is a woman named Jana Kramer, I think, or Janet Jensen. She's a military veteran who comes back and she's working as a small town cop in a suburb of Detroit. She has this traumatic background with PTSD and a best friend who was killed during the war, and she's come back and the family of her best friend hates her because she survived and her friend didn't, and none of that has anything to do with the plot. None of that. That's not going to pay off in any way. They tell you that just to give her character, just to kind of give you a sense of who the character is and what she's about, but that plays nothing into her role. Like, she's also a sharpshooter, and that never gets used in the movie at all. She begins investigating this murder of these drug dealers, gang members who keep getting murdered and mutilated, and the theory goes that it's this legend called the Nain Rouge, or the Red Dwarf, which is this legend that is specific to Detroit, of this demon that is summoned by someone and then set upon their enemies. Nobody believes her, but this movie is bizarre. It's even more bizarre than what I'm describing. Characters keep getting introduced all throughout the movie. Like, every other scene introduces a new character. We're 35, 40 minutes into the movie. They introduce the character who is essentially the main guy who's being pursued by Nain Rouge, the main bad guy who's being pursued by Nain Rouge, is introduced at that point. 45 minutes into the movie, we're introduced to her love interest, who has an actual big role to play in the end of the movie. 45 minutes in, we're introduced to this guy. We're introduced to the mayor of Detroit, who's the father of the main bad guy who's being chased by Nain Rouge. But again, he's not the fact that he's corrupt and his son is a criminal means nothing to the rest of the plot. That keeps happening all the way through this movie. It's so terrible.
It sounds like a movie where they're playing catch up the whole time, where something goes wrong and then they gotta pivot, and while filming, and they just got to keep, all right, let's just bring this guy in. Okay, we lost this actor. This isn't working. And it just seems like they're constantly putting Band-Aids on the movie to try to keep it together.
I wonder if that's what happened. I wonder if Nathan Mathers just quit like halfway through.
Or they fired him, or they're like, or they were afraid to fire him, so they just kind of kept him there and shot around him. Either way,
might explain all the editing in the movie. That's for sure.
That's a shame. I mean, when you said we were watching a movie called Devil's Night, I was all in, because anything devil, I'm all about. But then you told me, I read your review, and I'm like, I'm not even going to waste my time.
Oh, this is a low budget movie too, but yet they have like multiple giant helicopter shots that cost a good deal of money to film, and they spend that money they spent. I mean, they just might as well pissed it into the wind. They shot one scene with the Nain Rouge, this red dwarf, this devil character who's got this like plastic red pointy tail and like this dollar store red painted up mask, devil mask.
It's got the headband on with the horns.
Huh?
It's got the headband on with the horns.
He's just running around a rooftop growling. And the helicopter is just following along and just shooting everything that he does. And he just runs around, bending over and growling over the side of a building at no one. Oh, it's so dumb. But it's not even dumb fun, though, because it's so, like, I was taxed by this movie, just constantly trying to figure out what I was supposed to be watching and what I'm supposed to be keeping track of and what's supposed to mean something and matter in the movie. And I wrote a list, like, as I was going, each time, like, a new character was introduced. And I figured at some point I wouldn't have to keep that list, but I kept having to add to the list of people who kept getting introduced. To the point where I'm like, I just have to stop watching this movie. It's just no, it's not fun. It's like homework, but not like boring homework, but like really like not well put together homework
with no payoff in the end at all.
Exactly. Not even doing this for a grade.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, I hate spending time like that.
Eurovision Song Contest, the Story of FIre Saga.
This is every Will Ferrell movie you've ever seen. The stupid accent. You've got stupid hair, stupid clothes. Just the things that he really relies on these days. He's going to fall down a lot, and he's going to say, he's going to embarrass himself and try and pull off the comedy of humiliation, and it never works. And the weird part, though, about this movie that I found odd is that I couldn't actually tell where any of the jokes were. Like, what was supposed to be authentic and what is supposed to be hilarious never really become clear. And it's sort of this earnest presentation of this music that I don't know if that's meant to be bad or not. Am I supposed to be laughing at this? Are these songs supposed to be funny, or are they supposed to be something that I take kind of seriously? Because it sounds like what I've experienced before, just in snatches of, like, briefly of Eurovision, these very authentic or organic performers. They're European, so they don't have the kind of ironic mindset that we have. And so I can't really tell what's supposed to be funny here and what isn't, other than the fact that Will Ferrell is way too old to play this role and has absolutely no chemistry with Rachel McAdams whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, I once heard Anna Gasteyer on a podcast say that Will Ferrell finds it really funny when something is bad. Like, they'll have a sketch that just bombs miserably, and he enjoys the hell out of it. It makes him laugh even harder when something's bad. So, like when him and Kristen Wiig did that Lifetime or Hallmark movie, whatever it was, they played it as straight as they could, but that was supposed to be funny. And I don't think it really found an audience, and no one watches it. And this is a little different. I mean, he's literally in a hamster wheel at fall. I mean, clearly he's trying to do stuff that's funny, but at the same time, I mean, the name itself, Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of FIre Saga, I think he thinks that's funny. And it probably to some people it is. And I mean, there's just too many Will Ferrell movies for this to really.
Right, we saw him do this. We see him do this in every movie. The basketball movie he made about basketball in the '70s has the same plot, the same the same goofball, the same Hey, look at this thing that's very '70s, and this is hey, look how foreign this all is. This is all very foreign, isn't it? And how that's funny, I guess. I don't know. I've seen him do this a million times. It's just there's no different here. Blades of Glory, like it's funny because it's ice skating. Isn't ice skating inherently hilarious? And these over the top characters, yeah, I guess. But when you try, it's like intentionally trying to make a bad movie. Like we already know how inherently silly some of ice skating is, and you're not really improving upon that. And we all kind of know how kind of silly and over the top and overwrought, European pop and Eurovision itself is. You try and make that somehow bad or worse. It just doesn't work. There's the irony is lacking here.
And because you've seen all the Will Ferrell movies, what's like, I mean, you don't know that the ship's going to blow up and they're all going to die, but you're not far away from that. You kind of have an idea something like that's going to happen.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's an inevitable plot. We already know they're going to Eurovision. It's the fucking title of the movie. So Something had to happen. If they're the worst thing in Iceland, but they ended up at Eurovision, something had to happen. That inevitability isn't particularly hilarious.
Right. The only thing you can clearly tell Rachel McAdams is having a blast. And I think even Pierce Brosnan, you can't tell because of his character. But I do think, similar to like an Adam Sandler movie, that he probably gets he has a good experience with the cast and crew when they make movies like this. And unfortunately, that doesn't resonate to the screen necessarily. But I will say this is more competent than some of them. Like, I liked it better than the basketball movie. Probably right around with Blades of Glory. Not quite as... I guess Step Brothers and Talladega Nights are a little bit more watchable and funny, or more annoying, depending on where you fall on the Will Ferrell scale, because there's more screaming in those. But, it's just kind of middle-of-the-road Will Ferrell for me. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It just kind of, it is what it is. I think knowing how much you hated it helped, because I was ready to go, and then I was like, okay, this isn't that. It's not good by any stretch of the word, but it's also a movie that's not for people like us, and we're kind of stuck with because we can't go to the theater. Is really what it comes down to.
I've really come to hate so much of what Will Ferrell has done in the last, 10 to 12 years. It's been a long time since Will Ferrell has made what I think is a genuinely good movie. And I think that was Anchorman 2. Which is a while ago.
And then before that
was a while ago.
But before that was probably a long distance too. I don't know. And again, he had the ensemble has to be as good as I don't know. Yeah. He's done too much at this point, so it's just kind of he has a lane and he knows what works for his audience, and critics be damned. That's kind of really all there is to it.
I just find this to be, it was a slog. Like, there's even structurally, there's just no pace to it. And you can see every beat coming, and then they just waste a lot of time getting there. And then you've got Dan Stevens, who seems to be delivering, I guess, the one maybe kind of funny performance in the movie. But even they don't really know what to do with his character in the end. Like, they don't make it. He's flamboyant and over the top, but they don't have enough there. They're not. It seems like they don't have any ambition for how high over the top he's going to go, or they don't pay off anything about there's an intimation in the movie that he might be gay, but then he keeps saying that no one in Russia is gay. There aren't any gay people in Russia. There's a funny idea there, but they don't explore it, and they don't lean into it in any way.
They don't lean into anything. Everything is just kind of they hint at something and they move on, which is just weird. I don't know why. And even his character, is he a bad guy? Clearly he's not, but they kind of start off like he's going to be the one that breaks him apart, and all of a sudden he's actually kind of a good guy. I don't know. The whole thing is, it's just kind of weird. It's over 2 hours long, which is
long. Felt like hours going by.
See, I was working, so I had it on my phone watching it. That's why it made it more watchable. I think I was had other things going on, but I don't know. It's
what is his character at all? I mean, he's a guy who's he's almost 50. He lives at home with his parents. He's asexual, apparently. I guess he doesn't, or he has no ability to recognize that a woman might find him attractive. He doesn't really sense like to have any type of sexual life whatsoever. How is this character supposed to exist? I mean, it would make sense if he were like 17, 18, 19 years old. But I guess the joke is that he's 49. But I think it's past the time, like when this joke goes, this type of joke that we're going for here, where this guy is that level of clueless, is still funny maybe when you're in your early 30s or maybe in the mid 30s. But then when you get into your 40s and closer to 50, it just becomes confusing and sad instead of being funny.
Will Ferrell's kind of been playing that joke his entire career, too. I mean, he seems like at some point in, not every movie, but a lot of his movies, he lives with his parents. I mean, Wedding Crashers, he did it. I don't know. He just seems like he does that a lot. I don't know.
But it undermines, McAdams' character in a lot of ways because she's not given the any type of agency. Her role is basically just to love him, be in love with him no matter what. And he doesn't have to demonstrate why you would find him attractive or interesting or compelling and want to be around him. But you have to stay and want him. And that's basically the entirety of your character.
Yeah. I mean, she's the thing I enjoyed most about the movie. But again, it's hard to say I enjoyed it. So I don't know.
Yeah, she's incredibly, charismatic. And you can definitely see her movie star qualities because she's trying her best to make this work, and she has an obvious sense of purpose in her performance that is way more than anybody else. I think Farrell's just kind of reaching for every possible joke he can find, and it's the same kind of sweaty desperation that he had in The House, where it's just like, okay, well, just keep doing bits of business until maybe somebody laughs at something, and that's not funny. It's tiresome.
But on the set, they're probably rolling on the floor laughing. So you got to be able to translate that to the screen, and this doesn't do that. And
not at all. Yeah,
it's a shame.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event for the linear, legitimate, and universally recognized, undisputed classic.
In hindsight, we really should have done Talladega Nights. I know it would have made your life even more miserable, but with the 1990 movie and Eurovision, it really would have fit.
I wasn't thinking. I guess you're right. Because I really regret having watched Old School.
Yeah, Old School is a classic, and I'll just say briefly, I both still like it, but I feel shame. Like, it just bums me out that there's too many movies like this that exist. I don't know if that makes sense.
I just think for me, I've just grown out of it. I've just grown out of this type of humor. I know I laughed at this when it came out. I know I thought this was really very, very funny when I was younger. And now I don't find it offensive in any way, but I don't find it funny anymore either. In fact, I at one point I kind of found myself kind of identifying with the Jeremy Piven character, and I really wanted to kill myself. Just for the moment when he was like, you guys are adults, get off this campus, you don't belong here. He's right. These guys are assholes.
But that was what's so tough about this movie is because we're in our 40s now.
Yeah.
These characters are in their late 20s, early 30s, maybe 30. So it's hard to go back because they still look. I mean, Vince Vaughn looks every bit 40 in this movie. Luke Wilson looks like he could be 40. So does Will Ferrell, for that matter. But they're like 30. So it's so hard not to put myself in their position, even though I'm 10 years older than they are. And that really makes this movie tough to watch right now, especially with the Chris D'Elia stuff that came out, and then Luke Wilson wakes up with Eliza Cuthbert in his bed, and she's in high school, and now Chris is 40 when all his stuff's happening, and I'm 40 watching this, but again, that character is in his late 20s, early 30s. It's not okay.
No.
But it's the different. I'm having a hard time. I just the age. You're right. We've grown out of the comedy and that kind of. I don't know. It's impossible to get back into those shoes because I was 23 when this came out.
Yeah.
So it just is. I think everything works. It's just I've grown. You're right. It's the fact that we're 10 years older than the characters we're supposed to relate to, and it's just hard to. I don't know.
This type of man-child stuff doesn't age well. It just doesn't. The reason it works, I think, in something like Knocked Up, which we watched recently, I think it works there because those characters are so much more fully fleshed out and likable, and I think they're still like young enough to where they're going to grow out of that, maybe.
Right.
Which I think we kind of see a little bit in This Is 40 a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Those characters, and what Rogan shows throughout that movie is actually growing up and becoming an adult. Whereas here, I just don't like I just don't sense any of that. I just see a lot of man-child whining about. I think these are the kind of guys who are going to have their own Twitch channel at 40, trying to talk to 17-year-old girls, and that's not funny. It's pathetic.
Yeah, and then they play Luke Wilson to be the victim in that scene with Eliza Cuthbert. It just that whole thing, that running joke throughout the movie, really did fuck with me. And again, it just shows you that it's not this movie, but it's the fact that there's so many movies like this made by the same people, and it really made me crave for more diversity up in the studio heads. That could really allow for different movies to exist, because I think that would make me like this better. I'm just sick of, I don't know, it really bummed me out, I guess.
Yeah,
because
I think another aspect of it too is that I think these are the kind of characters that would also, in this day and age, be the dick pic characters. They'd be people who send their pictures of their penis to women on the internet, and that just makes me like them that much less. Like just the kind of people you're going to find out about years later, after knowing them when you're younger. You're going to find out that they were doing horrible things. They're the kind of people who end up getting exposed on Twitter. And or worse, they turn to the right and they start posting about Trump. Like that is another arc to where I think these characters could end up, which really makes it that much scarier.
Yeah, at the same time, they I don't know. There's just so many directions you can take. Like you said, you can make an arc for any direction, and it does get it. I don't know. The whole thing just really. I don't know. I mean, I still laughed here and there. I like Vince Vaughn. He's the one most likely to do all the stuff you're saying, but at the same time, they put that scene in there just to make it okay for the way he acts, where he turns down the girl, and
yeah.
But I don't know.
What was Ellen Pompio's character supposed to find attractive about Luke Wilson's character, to the point where she just shows up at his house at the end? Because he does nothing to earn her interest. Nothing at all.
It's more Craig Kilborn losing it, blowing it. Than it's kind of what I don't know.
And oh god, there's just nothing funny about it anymore. Like you used to. I guess it was funny when the Will Ferrell character, when we knew him from Saturday Night Live and moving into this movie, the idea of him getting drunk and running naked down the street was hilarious. And now, 20 years later, after I've seen Will Ferrell's ass so many times, it's not funny anymore. I'm done seeing Will Ferrell's ass.
Yeah.
There's only so many times him taking his shirt off is going to be funny anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I like the tranquilizer scene still, even though it was childish. Not so much. I don't know. I just like the fact that he shoots himself in the throat. I don't know. But again, it's not as funny as it was. I mean, I remember rolling on the floor laughing for that. And again, there's nothing. The movie's not. There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't age well, and I think it's not even. I don't know if it's the movie that doesn't age well. It's the fact that we're 10 years older. I don't than the characters that they're supposed to be.
Yeah, I think we've just matured away from it. We've actually become grown-ups where these characters are still man-children. It's become easier to be more judgmental of them because we're no longer like them.
Yeah, and I mean, even with like Knocked Up and Hangover and all these movies, it's just like I like all of them, but I just crave, for every Friday there's 15 movies like this plus a bunch of shitty American Pie Bandcamp movies, and it just makes me feel like we have enough movies that I want more. I feel like if there was more diversity out there, and not just from white people at the top saying, "Hey, let's hire a black guy." I'm talking about full blown movie. I don't know, movies like Friday and whatnot. Which, well, I'm going back to movies so fucking old it's not even funny because I can't think of another one off the top of my head that would make me feel less shame. Although some of the rapey stuff that's not going to really change. But even more women's, more ladybirds, I don't know. That's really what this experience did, is make me crave more movies like that. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, there's definitely this was made at a time when there were a very slight amount of other voices in the world, seemingly, and it was all about appealing to young white men, which is what we were at the time, and movies were made specifically for us, and we were getting anything we ever wanted. We were getting in terms of the movies about guys like us, and I think when you become more mature and more intelligent, you start to crave other perspectives and ideas, and I think this is just the natural equation of life that you grow out of things like old school.
That does, I don't know. It's I guess changed a little bit, but not enough. I don't know.
But then, if Old School were a better movie, would it be able to hang on? I mean, I think Knocked Up is a better movie. I think it hangs out a lot better.
I agree.
Than this does.
I do agree. I think the fact, like you mentioned, the characters being 24 helps, because then they don't look like me, at this point.
And Will Ferrell has not done us any favors on this, trying to play the same character today that he played 20 years ago.
Right. All right. Days of Thunder. Turn 30.
Days of Thunder stars Tom Cruise as Cole Trickle. He's a first-time NASCAR driver, and he plays by his own rules. He gets a ride in NASCAR from Randy Quaid, who hires Robert Duvall's character to build a car and be the crew chief for the pit crew. And Cruise and Duvall don't get along. They butt heads because, Tom Cruise plays by his own rules, and Duvall's a traditional guy. And Days of Thunder is not a bad movie, but it's not a great movie either. It's a highly mediocre movie. It's very much derivative of everything else that Tom Cruise ever did before this. It's basically Top Gun in a car, if you want to be, that generic or obvious about it, because everybody makes that joke. But it's competent in many ways and kind of exciting here and there. The thing that I came away with this time, though, is that this is not the Tom Cruise that I enjoy in a movie. This is a very bland Tom Cruise. He doesn't appear all that invested in this. You don't sense any kind of connection to the material, to the character. He's just sort of going through the motions, and that comes through in the scenes opposite Robert Duvall, who seems perfectly authentic and alive in this performance. He is the best thing in this movie, and he is investing this character with life and energy, and you can just this sense of lived experience within this. And you watch them together, and Duvall is just blowing Tom Cruise off the screen. Like Cruise is just this empty vessel on screen when he's compared to the obvious magnetism that is radiating from Duvall throughout the movie. And I don't know that I've ever seen that happen to Cruise in a movie before, or at least from my perspective, because I happen to like him a lot. Other people might have a different perspective. I happen to like Tom Cruise a lot. But this time watching this, what really stood out was how incredible Duvall is and how empty Cruise is.
And I don't know if that's, again, an age thing where we've just seen Tom Cruise do that role so many times, and whether he was on autopilot or if I'm bringing that to this or not. I mean, Duvall was something fresh for this typical Tom Cruise role, and the fact that you got a really great actor in that, that role, as opposed to the guy, whoever it was in Top Gun, or whatever other movie, Craig T. Nelson and all that, whatever it was, you got Robert Duvall, who's a fantastic actor. I don't know if he's really blowing Tom Cruise off the screen, or if I'm just so used to that Tom Cruise play by my own rules character that he did for 10 years plus. I mean, he kind of does it now, but it's a different version of it, I guess. I don't know.
I find Cruise to be a lot more alive in every other role than this. I think he's miscast. I think the problem is he's miscast. I think you need a character who's a little bit more Southern, has a little bit more of a tie to the culture that this movie is set within. NASCAR is a very much of a Southern culture, and I think a character who is more fit for that, or maybe a character who's much more city and something just more defined than what Cruise brings. This sort of not that he is Midwestern, but he has sort of Midwestern blandness that really doesn't fit here. Whereas a character who's kind of a little more Southern fried and colorful would be much more fitting for this, or a more stronger of a New York vibe, maybe just something that would be more opposing to what Duvall is doing, but still as lively, would work a lot better. Cruise doesn't seem to know what to bring to this performance.
Yeah, it's just very cookie cutter, very it's definitely movie star looks, but but movie star means it's not. You're right. You don't have New York. You don't have. There's nothing specific about it. It's just he's a movie star, and it doesn't. You're right. I mean, I don't know who I would want. I don't know. I suppose you could put a Southern accent on Brad Pitt. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's also derivative of anything Tony Scott's done too.
I can honestly see I can see Affleck, a young Affleck, play this role and kill it. I honestly with a much more of a northern energy to him, or like a McConaughey even would be much better suited to something like this than Tom Cruise is. Granted, they're way younger and they wouldn't have been a lot even old enough to play a role like this in 1990, but
could have waited.
Wait a few years.
Just wait 9 years.
Then they'd be perfect for this. Yeah, they would fit that mold beautifully. Tom Cruise just doesn't seem right for this role. I think he gets cast in a role like this because of Top Gun. I think they just want him to be Maverick. Just do that. And I think you can sense what I think what we're sensing here in him is his own boredom with himself, with this typecast role that he's been set in. I think he's bored.
Yeah, because it is around this time. I mean, Rayman's already come out where he gets to kind of expand on that character, and then right around the corner is when he starts going into those The Few Good Men's and the Jerry Maguires and the Firms, and he spends a lot of the 90s doing that. So, I don't know. I think you're right. There is something to it. Then he goes back to the stunt shows where all he does is jump out of planes and shit. But, I don't know. I'd never seen this movie, but I felt like I had when I was watching it. And it just, I don't know. It just doesn't. You're right. Robert Duvall kind of made it for me, I guess. But, I mean, you've seen the scene, whether you've seen this movie or not, you've seen the scene where he tells him there's a new set of tires on the car, and then he,
yeah, Rubbin was racing.
Plus, I don't like NASCAR, so there's that. Doesn't do anything for me either, and I don't know. I feel bad, just kind of a blah week for the podcast.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, when we come back,
nothing exciting. The
20 years from now, when we watch My Spy, we'll see if that holds up. Oh, man. Next week, though, I don't know if it gets any better. Die Hard 2 turns 30.
Huh.
The Jetsons movie turns 30.
I'm not going to watch that.
Hamilton's on Disney Plus. They're filming the stage play they already have, and they're just going to show it on Disney Plus.
Yeah, they were going to release it in theaters, but they moved it to Disney Plus because of all that's happening.
And then we got a documentary in our email about Lynyrd Skynyrd we're going to watch.
It's not a documentary.
Oh.
It has documentary elements, but it is a live-action film.
Jesus Christ. No wonder.
So it's told from the perspective of Artemis Pyle, the drummer for Lynyrd Skynyrd, who was on the plane when they crashed, and this is the story of the plane crash.
Oh, wow. So Sean's seen it. I haven't. I got it. We both have screeners, but he's already watched it, and I didn't read anything about it. So wow. So this is like that Rolling Stones movie that didn't have any Rolling Stones songs in it. Okay.
Yep, but it's got one member of the band who kind of pops up here and there to narrate and then disappears, making it basically like a dramatic reenactment. Never mind. Just watch it for yourself. We'll talk next week.
Yeah. Our classic's going to be Pink Floyd The Wall because that's the closest thing to Lynyrd Skynyrd and Hamilton. I don't know. It's like the perfect middle ground. Maybe. I don't know. That's on YouTube if you want to watch that with us. And I'm sure something else will pop up as well. But yeah, so hopefully next week's more. Hopefully Hamilton saves the day. I've never seen it. So
hopefully. I don't know. I've never heard even a song from Hamilton. Which this just to show you how cloistered in the Midwest we are. I guess I've just never had. It's never been readily available. I don't think, or at least have they put out a cast album? I don't know. I've never bothered to look for it because I've always been really jealous of the people who actually get to see it on the stage.
Yeah, and I've kind of always I'm a big Book of Mormon fan, and that was kind of the flavor of a few years, and then Hamilton comes out, and it's a forgotten about project. So I've always kind of held something against Hamilton, but I've never heard a song I have friends that have the soundtrack and whatnot. So I don't know. I've avoided it, but I'm going to give it a fair shot and see how it goes because I got nothing else to do anyway. So, and Book of Mormon's nothing even like this, so it can still be great on its own level.
So you saw Book of Mormon on the stage?
Twice. It is amazing. Nice. Every time it comes back, I'm going to go. It's that good.
Wow.
I mean, those guys are geniuses. I mean, I know that they can be they miss enough, but when they hit, and they hit hard, and it's, I don't know, get that soundtrack if you haven't heard it. That alone, just listen to it beginning to end, is pretty, I don't know. It's respectful to Mormonism while tearing it apart at the same. I don't know. It's just like that perfect South Park thing that they do.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I wish that would.
I've never seen it. Never heard a song from it. Yeah. Just always jealous of the fact of the people who got to see it on stage.
Yeah, I came to Peoria and I came to the Quad Cities at one point. I think it was going to come back this summer, but obviously nothing's coming anywhere.
Yeah.
So
I've not had many stage experiences. Like the last time I saw like an actual stage musical, I actually saw Tom Wopat from the Dukes of Hazzard in Chicago.
Wow.
He was playing the Richard Gere role. It was bad.
Yeah, I've never. I mean, I don't. There was nobody. It wasn't like what's his name, the Olaf from Frozen. He wasn't there. What the fuck is his name?
Josh Gad.
Josh Gad.
Yeah, he was in the original Book of Mormon, right?
Yeah, it wasn't him. But I mean, it was. I don't know. I was so far away that I couldn't make out who was anybody famous. So it's just a traveling show, but it was still good.
Just a kind of a quick aside, I did interview Tom Wopat for the show, and he could not have been more pretentious about it, which is so funny. Like, really, you're the Dukes of Hazzard guy, man. You're going to be pretentious about being on a road show of Chicago 25 years after it was popular? That's what you're going to be pretentious about? Okay.
And you're on the road show version. That's the other. It's not like you're on Broadway. You're at the Adler. For those of you that don't know, that's our local theater here.
He's lucky they didn't pause to serve dinner.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, isn't it funny how the most pretentious people are the ones that shouldn't be? That's what I've noticed when I interview people.
That unearned pretension is always just so sad. Like, it would be like if Estevez. No, what's his name? Oh God, Eric Estrada was like really pretentious about what he's doing today.
But then you talk to like the guys who could be, and they're just normal people. I don't know. Just, people suck. That's what I'm getting at. All right, want to play Flick Sharp before we wrap it up?
Sure.
The Hobbit, Desolation of Smog, National Treasure, Book of Secrets.
Whew. I know Desolation of Smog is a better movie just from being the nature of it, but it's so long, I'd rather watch National Treasure.
Brazil, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the Fincher version.
Brazil, yeah, just so much ambition. Even as much as Fincher is amazing, I just think there's so much ambition to Brazil.
Yeah, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Goldfinger.
Crystal Skull. I hate everything Bond.
Agreed. World War Z, The Truman Show.
Truman Show. World War Z is just sort of. It should have been good and it wasn't.
I have a straight-ahead action movie, basically, with zombies.
Yeah.
Nothing really beyond that. Highlander, Seabiscuit. We can get 2 weekends in a row of Highlander. I think you picked it last week.
I don't hate Seabiscuit that much, I think.
All right.
Yeah, Seabiscuit.
Into the Wild. I can't even pronounce that movie from 1940. All right. Into the Wild, The X-Files.
Into the Wild.
Agreed. Let's see. Come on, Internet. You were doing so good. The Holiday, Sniper 2 with Tom Berenger.
The Holiday.
Didn't have to think about that one.
Nope.
Kazam, starring Shaq, or A Clockwork Orange.
You're not thinking of Shazam starring Sinbad?
Correct.
No, it's Clockwork Orange.
Yeah. The Evil Dead, Aaron Brockovich.
Evil Dead.
Yep. Atomic Blonde, Paddington.
Flip a coin.
Yeah. It's Paddington.
There's a lot of love for Paddington, and especially for Paddington 2 that I just kind of don't get.
Yeah, but Atomic Blonde, as much as I want to like it, it really is a mess.
Yeah, that's true.
Fun with Dick and
Oh, hey, Charlize Theron might have a new movie next week, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, it's a Netflix film. I think it's either next week or the week after.
Hopefully it's next week. Fun with Dick and Jane, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid.
Fun with Dick and Jane. It's mediocre. I'd rather watch that than Honey, I Blew Up the Kid.
If it was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, maybe.
Maybe.
10 Things I Hate About You, You've Got Mail.
10 Things I Hate About You.
Agreed. Rat Race, Land of the Dead.
Which one's Land of the Dead?
That is the last Romero one, where he did in 2005.
Huh. I don't have a very good memory of that, but I really don't like Rat Race. So
flip a coin.
Yeah.
Land of the Dead. It was the lesser of all the Romero ones, if I remember right. But I mean, how can it not be, though?
It's funny. I was just writing about Romero this morning, and I was doing a piece on Dawn of the Dead.
Good, bad?
Oh, very good. Yeah, I gave it a very positive review.
The Ring, Sound of Music.
The Sound of Music. I love The Sound of Music. That is one of my favorite parts of having done this show, is the experience I had watching The Sound of Music. I'll never forget that.
Yeah. Resident Evil Extinction, Being John Malkovich.
Being John Malkovich.
I didn't know this was a movie. Saved by the Bell, Wedding in Las Vegas. I will refresh that one. That doesn't count as a movie. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, 30 Days of Night.
Crouching Tiger.
Yes.
30 Days of Night should have been good and wasn't.
Kill Bill Volume 1, Charlie Wilson's War.
Kill Bill Volume 1.
Agreed. Scream 3, Pearl Harbor. Wow.
That is brutal. That is absolutely brutal. Both those movies suck ass.
It's kind of amazing, really.
Oh, wow. Scream 3 is shorter, so give me that one.
Yeah.
Both are utter garbage, though.
I'll go with you on that one. Get Out, Sherlock. Sherlock, I don't know.
It's Get Out.
Yeah. Days of Thunder, Sleepless in Seattle.
I guess I can get by on this one because Duvall is that good. So yeah, I'll go with that.
I'm gonna go with Sleepless in Seattle. I don't give a shit.
All right, good for you.
It's more watchable for me. Sleepless in Seattle won the coin flip. Argo, The Shining.
Ooh, that's pretty good. There's a lot of controversy around The Shining right now.
What's the controversy?
Well, it's nothing to do with the movie. It's to do with the website Screen Rant. Apparently, somebody on that site was writing about The Shining. I tried to find the piece and I couldn't because I wanted to see what the writer's perspective really was, because they're repeatedly being owned on Twitter for saying that The Shining doesn't age well, that it glorifies domestic violence and violence towards women and children, which is certainly a take, I guess. People are just all over it. It's been trending on Twitter now for 2 days. This person's review, so I hope they're getting clicks for that. I hope they get paid by the click. But I've not actually been able. But the thing about it is, it's trending so much, I can't actually find the review itself. All I can find is people reacting to it.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I struggle with is, how far back do you go? I mean, I don't think the movie glorifies domestic violence. I mean, he's clearly a bad guy. It's not like you're rooting for Jack Nicholson in that movie. And he's insane, and I don't know, there's just a lot there, but at some point, I'm just like, I don't know.
I don't want to judge this writer
without having
seen
the
whole perspective that they have to it. Maybe they make a case, but obviously they didn't make it well enough for Twitter.
Well, and Twitter doesn't read anything; they just read headlines, or they read kind of the premise of what the article is about, but they never actually read the article itself, and they get hung up on one or two things that are said.
Yeah.
I'm still going The Shining over Argo. I like Argo a lot, but I
guess I can go. I mean, I really love Argo, though. If I was going to watch one or the other, I might watch Argo, honestly.
Yeah, I probably would too, but in terms, I don't know. It's just only because it's so long and The Shining is, and you just really got to buckle in. You can flip for it if you want. It is The Shining. San Andreas. God damn it, all these movies I can't pronounce from like the 20s and 30s. San Andreas, The Spy Who Loved Me.
Which was The Spy Who Loved Me?
I don't know, it's a Bond movie.
But San Andreas is actually somehow worse, so I guess I'll have to pick a Bond movie.
I was curious if you're just going to go with it because it was The Rock or not.
I thought about it.
I haven't seen either one as far as I mean, maybe I've seen the Bond one. I don't even know which Bond movies I've seen. Mamma Mia.
I hate...
Go ahead.
I hate San Andreas that much. So,
Mamma Mia, The Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace.
I can go with you there.
Now, if it was Mamma Mia 2, I might change my mind, because I think Mamma Mia 2 is legitimately great.
This is interesting. The Wrestler, Thank You for Smoking.
That is interesting. I'll go with The Wrestler, but I think Thank You for Smoking is a really great movie.
I think I'm going to go with The Wrestler, too. But if I had to actually make a list, I think they'd be pretty close to each other on the list of my favorite movies of all time.
They're that good, yeah.
Lady Vengeance, My Best Friend's Wedding.
I think I've seen Lady Vengeance, but I couldn't say for sure.
All right, Manhattan, My Best Friend's Wedding.
Ooh, wow. Manhattan.
Yeah. Let's see. Arrival, Happy Texas.
Arrival.
Jumper, Showgirls.
I mean, I gotta pick Showgirls because I'll watch Showgirls anytime. That movie is hilarious.
Cannonball Run, Aliens.
Aliens, just because Cannonball Run's depressing.
Why is it depressing? I've never seen it.
It's just lots of sad old man humor.
That's what I was wondering, if it was just old guys.
It's like a walking dad joke. but kind of dirty, which makes you even more uncomfortable.
Coraline, Gross Point Blank.
Gross Point Blank. Although Coraline is amazing.
City of Angels, Tremors.
I don't care for Tremors. And City of Angels has Meg Ryan getting hit by a truck, so not that I hate anything against Meg Ryan, but it's a funny scene. It makes me laugh every time.
Fair enough.
It's just, you can just see it coming so much, and you're just like, really movie, really? Then it happens, and it's just, I couldn't stop laughing.
I will say though, any more people getting hit by trucks in cars where they try to shock you with it, it's starting to get old. We need to not have that in movies for at least 10 years before we bring that back again.
I agree. Yeah, I think what ruined it for me is the Brad Pitt gif, the Meet Joe Black, where he walks into traffic and gets hit by two different cars.
That was awesome, though.
I've seen that. I've seen that GIF now on Twitter just so often. When people are like, somebody owns somebody else on Twitter, they'll throw that one up there.
Yeah, it sucks because that's a 3-hour-long movie, and that's the best thing that happens in the movie, and it's like 30 seconds in.
Otherwise, that movie is just dull, so dull.
But it sure catches you off guard. But the all the scenes where you're in the passenger seat or the driver's seat and just the car comes out of nowhere. I think Nashville did it like twice, the TV show. And not to mention every movie that's done it ever since then. It's just, I don't need to see that for a long, long time.
Yeah, I hear you.
Rosemary's Baby, Meet the Parents.
Rosemary's Baby.
I mean, this is a scenario, though, where I'm going to pick Rosemary's Baby, but I'd watch Meet the Parents first if I had to choose.
I like Meet the Parents. I bought the DVD.
The Negotiator, Resident Evil Extinction.
Negotiator. There are very few things I wouldn't pick over a Resident Evil movie.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Space Jam.
Eternal Sunshine.
Rise of the Planet of the Apes, 2011. Or, that's not a movie. Let's refresh. Friends with Benefits.
What's the options?
Rise of the Planet of the Apes, 2011.
Rise of the Planet, yeah. Okay, sorry. Yeah, Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Or Justin Timberlake, Mila Kunis body double movie. Anger Management, Planet of the Apes, 1968.
Planet of the Apes.
Dirty Pretty Things, Sling Blade.
Dirty Pretty Things. That movie's amazing. So many people missed out on that movie.
Never seen either one. What is Dirty Pretty Things about?
Audrey Tautou and Chiwetel Ejiofor, and there's a mystery at the center, murder and mystery and excitement and slave trading, human slavery. Yeah, it's good stuff.
And that, I mean, you jumped at that, and Sling Blade's supposed to be a great movie, so that's saying something. I'll have to find a chance to watch that. Tin Man, I Love You Man.
I Love You Man.
Agreed. Munich, Evil Dead 2.
Oh, that's tough. That is tough. Munich is a great movie, but it can't touch Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, I agree. The Ring, Rosemary's Baby.
Rosemary's Baby.
Thumb and Louise, Tomorrow Never Dies. James Bond movie.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking of the wrong movie. Yeah, Thelma and Louise.
Starsky and Hutch, Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights.
Yeah, and I might watch Starsky and Hutch first again. But I think Boogie Nights is better. I can end on this one. I'll call it the Battle of the Bland. Sleepers or Gangs of New York?
Gangs of New York.
Am I wrong? Those movies should have been better. Each one of them.
I like Gangs of New York a lot more than most people.
Oh.
But it's been a while since I've seen it. Maybe it's not that great.
But I also hate Daniel Day-Lewis, so I'm holding something against it. The only person in the world.